This week, thousands of Year 12 school students start their final exams and prepare to finish school. So in just a few weeks, many will head off to places like Bali and Thailand to celebrate that it's all over for schoolie celebrations. Now, some of them will have travel insurance, but if they have an accident while riding a scooter, bungee jumping off a bridge, or after they've been drinking, they may not actually be covered, which could mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in bills or even death. And joining us now to explain the traps and with some great advice is Campbell Fuller from the Insurance Council of Australia and Kate Fitzsimons from the Fitzsimons Foundation. Good morning to both of you, Campbell and Kate. Thank you very much. Kate, if we can start with you, I'm so terribly sorry. You lost your sister 6 years ago in an accident. Tell us what happened and where was it?
Yeah, so it was 6 years ago this weekend. My beautiful big sister, Nicole, was having a relaxing holiday over in Koh Samui, and just after a quiet dinner one night, her boyfriend and her jumped on a motorbike without a helmet, though, and as they were turning into the driveway of their hotel, they were struck by a local speeding rider on the wrong side of the road. And, you know, at 3:37 a.m, I woke to that unthinkable phone call from my mum that my beautiful big sister had been in that accident. And just like that, our world was flipped upside down. But in that same moment, I learnt firsthand the value of travel insurance and the difference it made for my family, guiding us through that process from that moment right through to bringing Nicole home.
What do you mean by that? What did you learn?
So straight away, Mum was like, find her details, but the moment we got onto them, they helped us with arranging flights and accommodation for my parents. The first thing my parents were greeted with when they walked through the hospital doors before they were even allowed to see Nicole were medical bills. The insurance took care of that. They helped arrange flights home for Nicole through to, they even sent roses to be there with her at her funeral. So when I had every reason to hate on the world, insurance really kept me believing in humanity. So really made such a difference for us all.
And Campbell, with Kate's sister's story, because she wasn't wearing a helmet, which I believe was very unusual for your sister Nicole at the time, but she'd only had to go a short distance, so it was...
It's that complacency I think you feel when you are off overseas. Yeah.
So in that circumstance, if someone isn't wearing a helmet overseas, is travel insurance going to cover that usually, as obviously it did for you? But...
Look, it varies between insurers. The rule of thumb is that most insurers won't cover you if you're on a motorcycle or a scooter overseas. It's considered highly risky, as we've seen. I mean, the odds of being injured in a motorcycle accident in Southeast Asia is tenfold or even more so than in Australia. Now, in Nicole's circumstances, the insurer was able to cover that particular one. But the message for most people going to school is if you're planning on getting on a scooter or motorcycle, talk to the insurer first. In most circumstances, it's excluded. Some will allow it if you have a full Australian motorcycle licence and you follow the proper precautions. Have a helmet, wear proper clothing, and you're not drunk.
Now, Kate, you've made spreading this message about the importance of insurance sort of a bit of a mission for you. What's been the hardest thing to sort of get across, I guess, to young people?
Well, I guess, you know, there was obviously the insurance message and then the safety message alongside that I was so passionate about. What really ignited my spark was, you know, now on average we are losing an Australian over in Southeast Asia every 17 hours with a major cause being accidents. And I was like, this is not okay. You know, had Nicole known the risk, she never would have gotten on that bike. So it was combining, you know, the idea of making teens aware of the physical risk they're facing and then the financial risk that they're facing if something does unthinkable happen like that. So I guess being the sister of someone who's lost someone overseas, I can speak to them from that peer-to-peer, heart-to-heart kind of connection. So it's not mum and dad saying, don't do this. I let them feel what it is like, the consequences of those actions if you push boundaries too far over in these countries. And you know, I have 17, 18-year-old boys streaming in tears by the end of it. So that was kind of, you know, people said you won't get through to teens, and I was like, it's not going to stop me from trying, though. So,
Campbell, if I can ask you made an interesting point about beforehand in one of your answers, you said about drinking alcohol. That's a really important message, I think. So with all insurance companies, if you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, are you not covered for anything?
If the cause of the claim involves alcohol or the use of drugs, whether it's illicit drugs or the overuse of prescription medication, then most insurers will take a pretty dim view of that, because that is, you're still expected to look after yourself. You're still expected to do the right things. Now, we accept that going to Southeast Asia is a rite of passage for many Australians. As we can see on the footage, everyone loves to let their hair down. But one of the messages that Kate puts out, one of the messages that Smart Traveller, the government organisation, puts out is look after yourself. Take the right precautions. If you're planning to go bungee jumping, if you're planning to ride a motorcycle, if you're planning to do anything risky like that, make sure you check with your insurer that you're covered first. And insurance is available.
Sometimes it's, you're not covered because what they deem as risky behaviour can sometimes just be bungee jumping. I don't think a majority of people know that they're not covered.
I think that's true. And that's where insurance products do differ. It pays to read the product disclosure statement, and it also pays to think, would I do this at home? Would I do this without the safety nets of Medicare and parents and family and the law and order that we take for granted in Australia? And the answer is many of us do, and as Kate points out, when an Australian dies in Southeast Asia every 17 hours, clearly the precautions aren't necessarily being taken.
It's a really important topic, and for more information about travel insurance and the risks around schoolies travelling overseas and exactly what you are covered for and what you're not, go to understandinsurance.com.au. Please thank Campbell and Kate for joining us this morning. Thank you so much. Well, we will